So did Brian McKnight just admit to abandoning his own children?
And I'm sorry that tough love happens to be this way. I do wish them the best.
Brian McKnight has been getting a lot of heat online after people found out that he basically threw away his kids when he got married and he started a new family without them. Now what? Well, Brian is trying to defend himself and explain why he abandoned his kids, and y'all are not gonna believe the wild things he had to say. So is it his children's fault or is he just a bad dad? So singer Brian McKnight is getting roasted online for being a total deadbeat dad because he has been accused of straight up cutting off his first 3 kids, who happen to be black, from his life when he met another woman and got married. I know this story seems kind of wild, but listen, there is some juicy brews of tea. Brian used to be married to a woman named Julie McKnight for over a decade, from 1990 to 2003. They had 2 sons together, but Brian couldn't keep it in his pants and ended up fathering a daughter with some other woman. Julie was cool about it and accepted the baby girl Brianna into her family, but then Brian decided that he was done with the marriage and he filed for divorce in 2003. Well, fast forward a couple of years and he got remarried in 2017 to a woman named Leilani Mendoza. She already had 2 kids of her own before she met Brian, and they also had a son, Keiko Mateo. Unfortunately, he passed away as a baby. But then they had another son earlier this year, and they named him Brian Kanoa Makoa, or Brian Jr. for short. And this is where things get hella messy because Brian already had a son named Brian Jr. with his first wife. Now, Brian's messy situation with his first 3 kids has been going on for a while, but it was the new birth of his new baby that made people really sit up and notice, and it doesn't look good at all because Brian doesn't acknowledge his kids. He pretty much pretends like they don't exist. And like I said, it took the birth of his new baby for people to realize it. When the baby was born, Brian took to Instagram to write a cute note saying, "Dear baby Brian, every time I look at you and kiss on you, I'm feeling feelings that I did not know I could possess. An overabundance of love between a father and his legacy that cannot be measured. You see, I never was a sentimental man, not until I met your mommy and fell head over heels in love with her. And because of our love for one another, I realized my true reason for being here on this earth, and it's to be her loving, faithful husband and to create that legacy of that love. My namesake, my joy, my baby boy, you. I promise to love, protect, teach, guide, and comfort you every day of the rest of my life. And after I'm gone, I bestow upon you all the fruits of my labor as true heir to take care of you and yours for generations to come. You are my perfection, my son. I'm so proud to give you my name and just as excited to watch you live up to it." Now, this would have been real cute if he didn't have 3 kids before this, but he made no mention of them, instead referring to the baby as his true heir. Now, people think that he was taking a dig at his kids by making it clear to them that they are not his heirs and he wants nothing to do with them. Also, did y'all catch the part where he said that he never felt an abundance of love for a child before this baby was born? This is just showing that he never really loved his older kids when they were born, and it kind of explains why he found it easy to abandon them. And when he abandoned them, he did not look back, because in his Instagram bio he says, "Father of Julia, Jack, Keiko Mateo, and Brian Kanoa Makoa." And there was no mention of his biological kids. And if this doesn't show that he doesn't want anything to do with them, then I don't know what does. Also, Jack and Julia are his wife's kids from a previous relationship, and it just looks like Brian is taking his job as stepfather way more seriously than his job as a father of his own kids. He often hangs out with his stepson, and they even take trips abroad together. They take cute family vacation pictures together, and he even bought his stepdaughter our brand new BMW for her last birthday. So it looks like he is the world's best stepfather, but not even close to being the world's best father. Oh, and don't even get me started on this post where he posted a picture of Julia and wrote, "Jules, I became a girl dad because of you, and I couldn't have asked for a better daughter." The post was weird because he already has a daughter, and people felt like he was shading his daughter because he put "you" in all caps, and that was just extra messy. His son Brian Jr., well, the first Brian Jr., has called out Brian in a lengthy Instagram post where he said, "I can't imagine abandoning my children, man. It's hard not to imagine the psyche of a man that can truly just turn his back on his actual sons, on his actual blood and creations. It's mind-boggling to me. I don't think there is any situation that merits the way my father has chosen to treat my brother, my sisters, and his grandchildren, one of which is his firstborn's firstborn son, who also bears our name. He continued, "It breaks my heart, but not for myself, specifically for my siblings and my children. They don't deserve this at all, not one bit. And I'm not letting Ish slide, not for 1 second. I've tried my best to take the high road and be the bigger man and all the positive Ish, but there is a much bigger issue here. When it comes to Black fathers, especially in entertainment, that needs to be addressed." This is just so heartbreaking to hear because, again, it just shows how Brian just completely cut them off. I mean, he hasn't even met his grandson who bears his name. So when he cut his kids off, he cut them off completely and hasn't been in contact ever since. His daughter, Brianna, also made an Instagram post about how he hurt her by cutting her out of his life. She said, "Daddy's little girl was never really a thing for me. I grew up thinking that the things that happened to me and my dad's relationship were my fault. I grew up thinking that he doesn't want to come visit me because he doesn't love me. Constantly put behind other kids that he would call his own while I'm cast into a land far, far away in the back of his mind. It sucks knowing that someone else who's not even blood related to you comes before you in every single way. It sucks knowing that my phone calls have to go through a stranger I barely know, that my text messages are read without a response, and that my stepmother tells me that they wish the best for me." She continued, "My father hasn't called to wish me a happy birthday in years, and yet I sit by the phone every single year hoping that one day his heart will change. I'm so fortunate to have two brothers who are father figures to me, who celebrate me and love me every single day, and that will make up the time that we lost." From this post, Brian's wife Leilani doesn't look so innocent in this drama either, because it looks like she might be encouraging his decision not to have his bio kids in his life, while spending a lot of money on her own kids. I know I've said this so many times already, but y'all, this situation is so crazy. Well, the internet has been doing what it does best, and that's been dragging Brian from every angle. There have been comments saying Brian McKnight being intentionally nasty and antagonistic towards his biological children. No relationship, fine, I guess, but to have these IG captions about his new wife's grown children who aren't his and his half-black child being the perfect kids he always wanted, evil. Brian McKnight's boomer butt is on social media playing petty games like a bitter ex-girlfriend with his bio kids. And on top of disowning his children, Brian McKnight consistently uses his stepchildren and new baby with his current wife to take digs at them. Extremely unhinged, because if you were happy and at peace, you wouldn't need to do all that. Well, Brian came out to try to defend himself, and he just made things a hella worse.
Tough love is a tough thing as a parent to try to institute to your children because you want to help them as much as you can, and I did as much as I possibly could. When I stopped doing that for them, BJ was 25 and Nico was 22. And it wasn't like I completely cut them off at that point. That happened much later.
At first, this doesn't sound so bad because he made it seem like he just wanted them to work for themselves and not depend on his money. Sounds good, right? But it still doesn't explain why he completely abandoned them or pretends like they don't exist. Cutting them off financially is one thing, but moving on with your life without your kids, yeah, the math just ain't mathin'. Also, it's weird that he said he doesn't want to spend money on his kids when he's buying his stepdaughter a brand new BMW and taking his stepson on trips abroad.
Every step of the way. And let's also remember that these kids are 30 and 27, not 12. It's time for grown men to be grown men. And I'm sorry that tough love happens to be this way. And I do wish them the best. I want them to have and to reach their dreams and their full potential.
But if you think this is bad, it gets even worse because he tried to defend himself for abandoning his daughter. And y'all just gotta listen to this man's excuse.
And unfortunately, along the way, a couple years ago, I got wind that there was an older cousin who was above 18 who was quite possibly having sex with her. So I called, as a father should, to the state office for children's affairs there in Arizona, and I never heard anything back. But the next thing that her mother did was to block all of us from her social media, from her phone, and completely estranged her from us. So what that told me was they didn't want me to be involved in her life that way. So to see the post that she said, considering that her mother only had a child with me for money in the first place, and I'll reiterate this.
So his minor daughter was allegedly getting SA'd by an older family member, but Brian decided to cut her off because he had a disagreement with her mom? That's just wild. And again, it just shows that he never really cared about the kids because he should have stuck with his daughter after that. Him using her essay and her mom's reaction to justify his abandonment is just crazy. Also, his statement about how her mom only slept with him for money was completely irrelevant because he was also involved in the baby making process. He was just trying to justify his actions with that, but it just didn't fly. But I need to know what y'all think about this mess. Do you think that his reasons for abandoning his kids were valid, or do you think that he is absolutely vile? Drop your thoughts in the comments and then check out this next video.